Welcome. Today I've got the fantastic Tim B. Green today. We're going to be talking about how to become a cyborg and how to become a good cyborg. So since we only have 30 minutes, we're going to get into it right away. Tim, how do you become a good cyborg? Talk to me. What is this? What are we here to talk about today? I'm excited.
It was actually Elon Musk who said we're already cyborgs. We just happen to be using our thumbs to interact with AI. And we do interact with it daily, but I think it's really important that we learn two things as the overall thing, and that is that our brains, that AI is modeled on our brains, not vice versa. And some of the impact and the implications of how we interact with that. So it is literally about how to be a better cyborg. There's stuff coming up, starting with the first point, which might excite you and might horrify you. It does both for me.
Mhm. Well, what's that point? The excite
Okay,
and horrify.
so the point is we are already to some degree cyborgs, though inefficient, because we deal with AI every day. It's not implanted yet, but Neuralink is coming. It's already in human trials, which is actually the point that I'm starting with. They have four main points, and they're literally sort of a 1 or 2 sentence summary of four different books, which overlap into AI and neuroscience, which is where I'm coming from. So the first point is that AI is a deep learning network, and that it's doing what it's doing is doing based on our brains, which we've already mentioned here. It says, but these things think differently than us. It's already created things that humans have never thought of or created in all of human history.
Mhm.
And because of that, we have to be aware that they aren't us,
That's right.
but they could be either used for amazing and good things to make a utopia, or the Terminator bad version of it, to the point where it's already done things like made a drug called Halcyon, literally referring to the movie. What was it?
Yep.
The movie with Hal, the AI in the in
Oh
in
yeah,
the
Space Odyssey,
yeah,
2001 Space Odyssey.
that's the one.
Yep.
And it was a drug that nobody had even thought of, or even thought of how the model of the chemistry behind it worked. That came from it. But so has a similar program to that actually was basically had this switch, the criteria turned, where 0 means zero toxicity
Hmm.
to 1, which meant maximum toxicity. So they've used the same or very similar technology to also make not only the worst sort of nerve and poisonous agents, but poisonous agents that humans have never invented. And they've done both of these things. So it's good, but it's also terrible and potentially species ending. No, kid yourself, there's
Yeah.
real risks.
When you say they, who's they?
Researchers, the people who are actually building AI and then utilizing it. And this is where it gets very interesting and, again, a little scary, but exciting, is although it takes a tremendous amount of resources to develop a working AI program, once it's done, it can be put on, in the case of developing these high toxicity poisons that have never been invented by humans, they did it on like a standard PC or standard Apple.
Mm.
So we're talking about scientific researchers. This is not science fiction. This has actually happened. It's already out there. So they is
Well,
vague because I don't know their names, but I can
yeah.
refer to some books that do it. So do you have any questions? Because that's really what I want to do, is just sort of one statement. See if you have any other further questions. Then I'm going to cite the book. Then we can either move on, or you can ask another question if you want.
Yeah, actually I do. I do have, I mean, and I'm always gonna have lots of questions. And of course, I encourage people who are watching this, they can engage with me or with Tim. So if they have questions too, they can certainly engage with us on the platform, continue the conversation after the session. But I guess my one question, so we talk about the scary side of it, right? Which is being able to essentially engineer these really scary compounds, chemicals,
Mhm.
bio. talk to me a little bit about the good stuff. Like, I mean, I know I'm not going to try to like diminish the bad, but
Hmm.
talk to me about, because I do want us to make sure that we balance. There's a reason why we are pursuing this
Right.
kind of risk. Like, what's the gain for us?
Well, the gain is we do get things like halicin, which was, like I said, a whole new model in pharmacology that humans had never even conceived of
Tell me more
because the
about that.
AI.
Yeah, halcyon.
Okay, so it's essentially what they did is they made a program, and I'm not a programmer or an expert on pharmacology, but they made a program that was designed to look at the potential, that is, look at the properties of known and existing drugs. And I believe in this case, it was an antibiotic. And then say, well, basically go through and model tweaks on known molecules to see how they might affect it and to predict. And the AI itself found patterns in, like I said, in chemistry that humans had never even thought of, had never even conceived of. And that's where, so it's like anything else. It's like a gun can be used to find food to feed your family, or it can be used for a mass shooting. Um, both things happen. And another thing that is talked about specifically in this book is the other reason we need it is if we don't have it, that is, if the West doesn't have it, and I'm Canadian, so I consider us North American, not
Mm-hmm.
American, but North American.
Fair,
If
fair,
we
fair.
don't have it in democracy-loving countries, and other countries who have different political ideas do, then they will win. So
Mm.
it in a sense is kind of like, it's not exactly mutually assured destruction, but we will be either outcompeted or outperformed by countries if we don't have it. So that's sort of a defensive stance, but it's also all the benefits we can gain, and they are innumerable. But we need to, as you said, we need to look at it in a very balanced way. We don't even know what kind of amazing potential it could give us, but we see it every time we, order something on Amazon.
That's
We
true.
see it every time we get a recommendation um, from Amazon
Yelp
Prime
or
or any of the other
DoorDash,
streaming services.
anything. Yeah,
Right, right.
exactly.
So we're already into it, and nobody's gonna unring the gong. So we're here anyway. Now it's a matter of let's go forward smartly with it and, get the potential and recognize how it affects us. This is where I'm talking about the cyborg, because we have a relationship with AI, whether we like it or not. Unless you live in a cave in a mountain and you're not connected to anything, you are already in that relationship. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. It fascinates me today to hear people say things like, "Oh, I'm not interested in an AI." And I'm like, "Well, it's like saying you're not interested in the internet. It's like it's here, whether you're interested in it or not. You have to work with it, whether you're interested in it or
mhm,
not." So going on to your next point, how do we I'm making an assumption about your next point, but like how
mhm.
do we interact? Like this is our new world, right? So how do we navigate all of this? Like what's your
Okay.
advice to us?
Right. I'm going to get to that in the next point. I'm going to cite this book and then move on. So it's like us, but it's different. It's remarkable, but it has risks. So that's the point I'm making here. So I just want to cite the book, and then I'll move on to the next point, which goes into that relationship. So what I've just referred to mostly is from a book called The Age of AI, and The Age of AI and Our Human Future. It's by Henry A. Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher. So I'll share links with all of these books.
And we've put these books in the bookstore. So if you want a copy of this book, go on over to the bookstore and you can
Mm,
go and purchase it.
nice. Okay, thank you, because I was going there. So the next point is on something that's called neurotech. Now, neurotech is like Neuralink. That is technology that taps either directly or indirectly into our brain so that we can interact with computers in general. One of the things that has facilitated or made this even possible is AI and its capacity to filter out interference in our brain signals. That is, you got a bunch of chaos. What is the point? And it's a two-way interaction, because it has to, first of all, understand something about your brain specifically to know how, when you think move to the right, or you think about taking your 3 drones, and this has actually been done, by the way. three drones. It's like think, expand, and have them. So it has to look at what does the idea of expansion look like in your mind, which is in fact your brain, read that pattern and then learn. So you train it, it trains you, right? So you train it to know when I imagine a balloon blowing up and it goes, oh, this is him thinking of a balloon, that it actually takes those three drones that are in a configuration like this and then makes them expand out or
Mm,
go up or down. So
mm,
there's that. So within the neurotech, we also have to be very careful specifically about sharing our brainwave data with the companies, because of course they have user agreements. These are the user agreements that you should actually read.
mm,
Forget everything else compared to this. And here's the reason. It can tell them things about yourself that you yourself don't even know.
mm.
It's already been demonstrated experimentally in video games played using neurotechnology that they were able to take some of the players and find their PIN numbers from numbers in the environment of the gameplay, which your
What?
brain then recognizes as a specific neurological signal. I think it's like the N301. I don't remember the number, but a specific name of this, and it's actually high recognition. It was like, oh, I recognize that number, and you're not even conscious it's in the environment. You're just playing your shooter game or whatever. So
Wow.
that's the power it has. Now, think of it this way. One of the major organizations involved in this that has this neurotechnology stuff, their user agreement basically says we can use your raw neural data for anything we want. And they are directly associated with the Chinese government and the Chinese military, like transparently. So neurotech is amazing. Read your user agreement, or you might be giving away things that would literally enable them to manipulate you on a level well beyond anything we've seen.
Mm,
Of course, this also means people who can't walk can now walk.
right.
This means we may be able to actually enhance our own brains. That part is speculation on my part, but
Hmm.
um, like I said, it's all about reading the user agreement. And before I ask you whether you have any questions, do you have any specific questions about this? Because I know that's like mind-blowing big, because it's
Oh,
happening.
it is, and I you know it. I think it's amazing to me that it's happening, but I feel like it's not. We don't hear about it. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't talk about it. And
Hmm.
like how fast is this happening, Tim? I mean, because when I realized that we are in an AI bubble, or as my sweet lady at
Hmm.
church likes to call it, A1, we're in the A1 bubble. How soon is this going to happen? I mean, it's not mainstream yet, right? I mean, you can't go to
Okay,
the doctor and say, put a neural link in, buddy. But I mean,
right.
how close is it? I mean, is this,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to cut you off because that's a misconception. It's already here.
Okay. Yeah, tell
It's
me.
already here. We're already in that. And here's the thing. This particular book was written by I'm actually going to cite the book now. I usually do that
Yeah,
at the end, but it's called
do it.
The Battle for Your Brain: Defending the Right to Think Freely in the Age of Nanotechnology by Nida A. Farahani.
Wow.
She is, I believe, an ethicist. She's an academic and an ethicist and a lawyer. While you have every right to your private thoughts right now,
Mm,
with neurotech, they will be able to basically interpolate and extrapolate, that is, see between the data points and extend beyond the data points that they see. And you could be at work, for example, and you look up and you see this gorgeous man. I don't know if you're married or not, but let's imagine you are for the purpose of this. If you're married and you look up and you see this gorgeous man you've never seen, and of course you have a natural reaction because you're attracted to him, and then
mm.
your boss goes, look, Haley, there's a problem here because there's no in-office romances, and your data is already telling us that you're really attracted to this new employee.
It's my
So when
next
you think about
report.
your, right, so think about your private thoughts. Because of the complete lack of legislation right now all over the world, legally, while you have right to privacy and right to that as a person, soon as we get into your brain, it's like there are no legal protections against companies taking that data and using it for anything else beyond beyond what they actually need it for. Um, it gets legalese from there, and I don't know it, but the
Yeah.
gist is, soon as you put these things on and you agree to a user agreement, even if it says we'll only use it for that function, remember they could use it for other things.
That's
So
that's a big thing. I mean, and we've
yeah.
seen this happen with DNA, right? Where
Hmm.
people submit that's actually how they got the Golden State Killer, was that one of his cousins uploaded her DNA and the police got it through ancestry.com, and that's
Hmm.
how they were able to track him down.
Right.
And
Hmm.
she actually had an issue with it. I remember the cousin was like, "Oh, I don't know, this feels very comfortable. It feels very intrusive. Did this for my own knowledge, but now the police are able to take this data and use it in a way that I never even imagined." So
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's scary. I think of it very scary, and I've actually seen references to this technology, and like the World Health Organization came out with a workplace of the future video that references exactly what you're talking about. And I'll put a link to it in this session so people can see it. But
Nice.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Remind
and
me again the title of that book, because it
oh,
garbled up
the
a little
title of the
bit.
book, it's called Battle for Your Brain: Defending the Right to Think Freely in an Age of Neurotechnology by Nita A. Farahani. Now, I want to make an interesting point here based on your own there, and that is
Yeah.
a couple of things. First of all, this has already been used in modern societies to the recognition signal, or one of the recognition signals, where they actually showed a suspect a murder weapon from the scene that was never released to the public, and somebody has actually been convicted of the crime based on literally what their brain told them. And, we're not talking about the fifth. This is beyond taking the fifth.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no law to cover if they put this thing on your head. And I don't know whether they would only do this under rights of freedom, but if you put it on your head and you say, I submit, they may actually be able to charge you with a crime, even a murder, based on things your brain is telling you, but there's no legal protection for that neural data yet because it just doesn't exist.
Even under the fifth.
And it can go that
And
far.
and for those members of our audience who may not be from the US, when we say plead the fifth in the US, it's a reference to the Fifth Amendment, which means that you can't be coerced to um I guess testify
Incriminate
against
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, basically.
Right. And your
So this
brain can testify against you without your permission.
oh.
Right.
And you're
When you
saying
think
that
about it.
this has happened, that they've actually used this
Yes.
technology already. Wow.
Yes, it's referenced in the book, and I think there was one that was like in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, but I believe there was also one in the US. And they're not breaking any laws, because how can you break a law that
The
doesn't
laws.
exist?
Exactly.
Right. Let's go to the positive side of this, though.
Yeah.
Imagine you're an epileptic and you haven't been able to drive. And as a result of this same technology, it's like, look, we can tell you within half an hour before you have a seizure with 80 or 90% accuracy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the upside is absolutely as powerful as the downside. We just have to know about things like these rights. So I'm going to ping through a few more. I know we're probably going to get tight on time here,
Sorry,
but I
yes,
would love to cover them all.
yes.
Right.
Keep going.
So let me talk about the next one. And this is about social media. And here's where we really are cyborged in, because most of us don't have headsets, or even, by the way, earphones like I'm wearing.
Mm-hmm.
There are neurotechnology based on these, where it's just taking 2 or 4 channels, and through the AI
Able.
algorithms
Wow.
are able to actually read a whole bunch of stuff using these as EEGs. These aren't neurotech, but they can be.
Yeah.
So the next one is about social media, which is where we really are cyborged in already. And it is that you vote for anything you click on and engage with, even if you hate it. So if you're a white supremacist and you put something out there and it offends a whole bunch of people, if I go there to click on it saying, you shouldn't have the right to put out this nonsense, this garbage, this backward thinking, and I spend half an hour, or I watch a whole bunch of their videos going, this person's just nuts, and writing, every time I click, every time I engage, the algorithm goes, oh, good, they like this content. And
Mm-hmm.
this is what this book cites. And essentially what it is you get more of what you click on, even if you hate it. So if you go to clickbait and you click on it and it's like totally not what you want, stop and click away.
Mhm.
Because even if it's for the algorithm has essentially found that moral outrage is the best watch time algorithm.
If it bleeds,
So
it leads. People
that's
like
exactly
that.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. And yet you might be literally voting for more visibility of misinformation
Mm.
about um, vaccines or racial stuff or anything
Wars.
else, like
Yeah.
everything bad. So
Hmm.
if you see it and it's not what you want, click away right away, even if you're outraged, because that's what brought you there. And that will actually enhance the visibility for everybody else because you've basically voted saying, this is keeping me engaged, which means more watch time, more income for the platforms. Sorry to say, they are about the money.
Oh
So
yeah.
this one is based on it's a book called The Chaos Machine and the inside story of how social media rewired our minds and our world by Max Fisher. This loops to things like the genocide in Myanmar, in which both Google, that is YouTube, and Facebook, and their academics, their scientists who actually made these algorithms, many of them who have quit or been fired over time, this was years ago now, but said, we have a problem. Them going, oh, we didn't know, when in fact they did know, which is, that whole Congress thing. So I say it's still happening. And the reason I do is when I click on YouTube and suddenly I'm at Jordan Peterson and most of what he says, I'm ashamed that he's an Albertan because I'm an Albertan too. And it's like, honestly, I think he's an idiot about
Mm-hmm.
almost everything he says.
Almost, yeah.
And so why does it keep coming up? Well, because I clicked and I watched a video, but even so, why did it give me the first video, given that it's what I don't want in my feed? So I
Yeah.
think it's still in force. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, how do you see AI improving that though? I mean, I think so. One of my hopes for AI is that it won't go down the same route that social media did, that big social did.
Mm-hmm,
And maybe it's a little bit of a naive hope, but
mm-hmm,
I do kind of like the fact that there's this opportunity with AI to get more information and have a bit more bigger perspective. I mean,
mm-hmm.
how do you see? And I also see social media as just like the use of it it does seem, I mean, there's like arguments out there, is big social dead? I mean, do you see that? And did this book reference, how social media does seem to be going kind of diminishing, and how is that intersecting with AI?
Well, that's really the thing, right? I don't think it's dead, but I think this is where what I've just said about clicking away. We're voting with our clicks, and that's dollars for them.
Mm,
Even if there's no other way to do it, we can both as consumers and as especially consumers of content can vote ourselves, and we can also demand it of social media. That is, look, if you keep sending me this, the algorithm could have this is what I want, or this is the opposite of what I want.
hmm.
But we as consumers are the only one who are going to get that to happen. Because as long as we click, excuse me for a sec,
Yeah.
just got to dismiss a message. Um, as long as we're clicking, they're going to be selling it, even if it's what we hate. So we have to interact with it. That is, click away on anything we don't like and let the social media companies themselves know, which is already AI and algorithms, of course, we're not okay with this. You need to do this differently, or I'm not going to use your platform, or I'm going to minimize my use. And then it's dollars, and they care about that. So we as consumers have to, you vote with your dollars and you vote with your attention. That's how we can influence it in a positive way. So that is, instead of going and telling people that you hate their site and they're wrong and they're unethical or bad people, go to another site that's doing the opposite. It was like, here is a solution. Here is good information about stuff. So go to the sites that actually support what you believe in and spend more time there interacting with people, you know,
Yeah.
about the
Inattention.
solution rather than the problem.
It's
So,
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. Okay, so I'm just going to drop on the next one because this is
Go
my
for it.
fourth and final point, and this is the summary point, and that is sleep is especially critical to maximize our brain's potential, to make us the most creative, to make the best and most creative decisions possible. So what
Mm,
does this have to do with being a better cyborg? All of this, the overarching lesson is be a better human to be a better cyborg.
mm,
Remember, they're not going to sell us anything that we're not going to buy. So
that's true.
this is where we interact between our ethics, our behaviors, our mindfulness, and what we want to do. And why sleep is so important and why this is the foundation for this talk is, bottom line, all the things we've already talked about and how to make a good decision, how to make not just emotional decision, but a mindful and thoughtful decision. If your brain sucks and it does without sleep, then you are compromised in every way.
Hmm.
And I've got a couple points that I want to make before offering the questions, because this is sort of the encapsulation of this talk. Our brain and our body are indifferentiable. They're one system. So here it is. Your brain is you. It's inseparable from your body.
Hmm.
So to be the best cyborg you can be, here's 4 things you can do. Set a bedtime, not a wake time.
Love it.
That is, if you have to wake up with an alarm, that means you didn't go to bed early enough. If you
Mhm.
don't get enough sleep, it gets all neuroscience-y in that, but everything about your brain, your computer, the one you can control completely, is foundation on your brain waking up naturally after a full night's sleep. So set a bedtime, not a wake time. Second one is practice sleep hygiene. This is going to bed at the same time and doing only 2 things in bed, and one of them is sleep.
Oh,
Not
got it.
watching TV, not reading. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the next one, and there's other things, but mainly go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, even on holidays, that kind of stuff. Bed is for sleeping. Next one is eat a healthy Mediterranean style diet. And this is
Mm,
verified. This comes from other books that I haven't referenced, but the gist is you eat mostly plant-based diet, moderate on animal protein, or in my case, it's not quite zero, but it's pretty low.
mm.
I call myself a vegan. I'm mostly
I
vegan,
love
but
bacon, Tim. I gotta have my bacon.
yeah, there's vegan bacon that you can make yourself. A lot of vegan recipes are famous for sucking. There's good ones, but you still have to go mine them, and I think you have to make them yourself.
Got
But if
it.
there's more demand for that, we get back to the market. But
Right.
I love dead animal too. It's delicious. So then the last one is, it's going to sound like a fitness regime because it also is, do at
Hey.
least 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week.
Wow, 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week.
Right.
I
And
definitely am
I'm
not
going
doing.
to Right. I'm going to define cardio in the way that Andrew Huberman, who is like one of the
Love him.
deities of
Great.
the neuroscience space, because he's,
Yes,
a PhD and works at
brilliant.
Stanford as a professor. So as he puts it, it's like when you're doing your cardio, do it as somebody's chasing you with a needle full of poison, or a lion is chasing you, that is at your maximum capacity.
Mhm.
I would say probably what he means is intensity intervals. So you go for 10 seconds, 15 seconds all out, then you take a brief micro rest of a few seconds and then do it again over and over. And then you take a full rest every minute or so. And that's the way cardio should really work. And it's at your level. It's not at anybody else's level. So the most of this information comes from a book called Why We Sleep: Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams by Matthew Walker.
Mhm.
And this almost gets to inception level stuff that has already been done. So it is actually here near me, being in Japan, near me at the one of the academic universities or organizations in Kyoto. What they did is they set somebody up. They took a baseline, showed them pictures of things, saw what their brain scan showed them, let them go to sleep, and then described in broad terms what they were dreaming about. So it's like you were
Yeah.
watching fireworks. You saw a man or woman you were attracted to. Your dream included a lot of movement and running because your motor cortex was firing. They can literally, and that's today. That
That's
isn't sci-fi. That is science fact today. They
happening
can give
today.
broad strokes. They can't tell you who you were looking at, but they can tell you whether you were attracted, whether you recognize them. whether they were male or female, because if they've showed you both pictures, they know how your brain behaves in recognition of one gender or sex and the other.
Whoa.
Whether you were moving, whether it was an auditory dream, visual dream, kinesthetic dream, or all three. So that's what's happening out there. You have any questions about this last one?
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. Um, there's just it I think it amazes me that in this world that's so connected that there's still so much that you don't know. And I consider myself pretty engaged in the AI space, but I've learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff from you. I've got to go and look. Of course, you mentioned one of my heroes, Andrew Huberman. He's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I think what's so fascinating about this talk and about you in particular, Tim, and anyone that's watching this, totally encourage you to go check out Tim's YouTube channel. And his content's always like this, really, really, really cerebral and fascinating. But it's just like there's so much still that we don't know. Like, how do you find out? I mean, it's just you read these books. Where do you get your book recommendations? I mean, how do you find out about this stuff? How do you stay in
Well,
the loop?
okay, this is a great question. And ironically, it does have to do with the algorithms, right? Essentially, I'll tell you my secret. My secret is I listen to books rather than reading
Interesting. Okay.
because there's so, even though listening is slower than reading, you have many more opportunities. And this isn't to boast, it's because anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I listen to 50 plus books a year, no problem at all,
Oh,
simply because a book is an average of 7 hours, 8 hours. Think of it. Can you take an hour a day while you're exercising, while you're waiting in line at the grocery store, while you're washing your dishes, where there's no interference or danger, and listen rather than read? It quadrupled at least my reading or my learning rate. And where do
mhm.
the books come from? Well, anybody I can find who has similar interests, but mainly it really is just the algorithm. I go through, it shows me 10 books. I may only choose one or two, but I'm going to make damn sure those books are something I want to do. And also, this is kind of off topic, but yet relevant. And
Mhm.
that is read and learn widely. Yes, I focus on neuroscience and business and how to improve yourself. That's a lot of it. But I'm reading, the first book I talked about was the one by Henry Kissinger et al.
Yes.
So
Yep.
Henry Kissinger and others. I also went, well, everybody who's in North America kind of knows who he is. I just am finishing off reading a book called Kissinger on China. You talk
Mm.
about not knowing what you don't know. This is a 20-hour book about a guy who has went through 4 or 5 Chinese premiers and talked with them personally, who's
Right.
like, a mover of history and a witness of history. So yeah, look what the algorithm does, but still be picky. If you think you're not going to like it, and here's something super important that I love about Amazon, as much as I don't love some things about it, is that I hope you guys know this. If you listen to a book and you are not happy with it, you have 1 year to return it and get your money back.
What?
That alone, it's one of the geniuses that Bezos did, is like, if you can reduce the friction, this is more of a sales and marketing point. If you can reduce that friction to zero and put an exceptional guarantee on it, people will buy it and you will dominate the world, which is what Amazon has done. So
That's
think
right.
of it in terms of a course or training. If you say, instead of, oh, I'm going to give you a month, well, you can't even learn in a month whether it's any good. If you say, look, I'm going to give you a lifetime or a 1 year guarantee, you get every penny back if you're not happy with it. The research shows that the vast, vast majority of people, even those who hated it, will never claim that guarantee.
That time.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many reasons why you should make a frictionless guarantee that actually makes it almost impossible to say no, going, look, I'd be stupid. I can look at it for 364 days and get all my money back. Of course, you have to honor that. But the
Yeah.
results of that are overwhelmingly positive. Like, you probably make 10x what you would otherwise make.
It's probably what we're going to be doing for impact. So stay tuned for
Mm-hmm.
that, honestly. Um, any other, so I know we're at time, but gosh, I could really seriously sit here and talk to you all day long. I really think maybe we should do like an impact book club or something, Tim. Something to think
I
about.
like that.
Sure. But uh, before we leave our folks here today, is there any last pieces of information, something to look for, anything like that that you want to kind of leave our audience with today?
Well, like I said, sleep is the foundation of your brain.
Yes.
Take care of that. It is not an optional thing, it's a critical thing. And sort of be mindful and thoughtful, right? That it's ironic that these sort of ancient principles, but if you do that in interacting with the world, but interacting with anything online, which is already AI, yeah, just do that. It's like, do I want more of this? If I don't want this, how can I go beyond the inside of the program? That is, just go there and rage on somebody you don't know whose content you've just raised, to go to the media giants themselves and say, you know what? We don't like this. We want you to put something in the algorithm that votes from 1 to 10 as to how much you wanted that content. But
Yeah.
unless we say to do it, or unless we vote by not engaging in anything we disagree with, they won't change it.
Yeah. And they won't. I only
Mm-hmm,
think it's I think it's just an interesting study of humanity. I mean, with
mm-hmm,
all of what we have with AI and Neuralink and being able, the same principles apply. Be
mm-hmm,
smart, do your due diligence, um, vote with your attention,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So, and then just, be kind. Don't do what,
yeah,
just don't do those things. So,
yeah.
but I really enjoyed this conversation. Both Tim and I are available on the platform. You'll get an email, Tim, if someone reaches out to you. But thank you so much, Tim. This has been phenomenal. Go check out the books that he's mentioned. Go check out the Tim's amazing YouTube channel. It's phenomenal. Trust me, you're gonna learn a lot
Thank
just
you.
in the first 5 minutes. I do every time. And thank you so much, Tim, for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, Haley. Take care. Bye-bye.